All right, everybody, welcome back to the Horn Takes podcast. This is your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. It wouldn't be a week without a technical difficulty. We started a stream about 10 minutes ago and something crapped out on it. So we're starting another stream. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on YouTube. Anyhow, I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Prediction Wednesday. It's Thanksgiving Eve. It's actually my family's Thanksgiving because we're headed to Austin tomorrow. So I put the bird on the smoker a few minutes ago. So we'll be having some smoked turkey tonight. Texas with the opportunity to finish the Big 12 Fuck You Tour with a 6-0 record against the Hateful Eight on Friday night. They take on Texas Tech at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium, 6:30 p.m. Central Time kick. Should be a blast. We'll do our Trace Otra games for Week 13 today. We'll do 4 keys and a prediction for this Texas Tech game. And then we'll do some random college football stuff. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. If you just like to listen to podcasts, you can do that too at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com or any place you listen to podcasts. Google, Spotify, Apple, we're everywhere. Trace Otra games, Week 13. We got a 25-11 record coming in. 4 of the last 5 weeks, we've been 3-0. It's rivalry week, so these are the crazy ones. These are the ones you never know what's going to happen. 2 of the 3 to this week are rivalry games. One of them is just an interesting game. We'll talk about it in a minute. Number 11, Oregon State on the road at number 6, Oregon. It's a Friday night kick, 7:30 p.m. Central Time on Fox. Oregon, a 13.5-point favorite at home. It's going to be cold and clear on Saturday night. No rain in the forecast like there was that game last week with Oregon State and Washington. So I don't think weather's going to be a big factor in this game. I think that weather kept Oregon State in that game with Washington. I think Oregon State would love to have a lot of rain, but they're not going to get it. Oregon's trying to continue to pass the playoff committee eye test and get themselves into the Pac-12 championship game. Oregon State cannot, I believe, mathematically get into the Pac-12 title game at this point. So for them, it's about just going out and beating your rival. It's about maybe getting a better bowl spot. It's definitely about ruining the postseason hopes for Oregon. I think all that aside, I know Oregon State's going to show up. They're going to play hard. It's a rivalry game. I think the only shot they have to win this game is if they just absolutely control the game on the ground and end all those drives with touchdowns, which won't be easy. Oregon has a top 10 defense against the run. I think Oregon State's got a pretty decent defense. I've seen both these teams play here recently. They're pretty good. They're not great. They're not bad. I just don't see them slowing down Oregon whatsoever. I like Oregon in this game, 31-17 at home. Number 2, Ohio State at number 3, Michigan. Saturday, 11 a.m. kick. Michigan, a 3.5-point favorite at home. To me, this is like the only game these two teams have played against another team that's actually good. I know they've both played Penn State. I know both of those games were kind of close games. I don't think Penn State is very good at all. Their offense is terrible. I think Ohio State has better playmakers offensively than Michigan does. Watching Michigan and Penn State play football was some of the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I say that facetiously, but God Almighty, it was terrible. It's got to be easy to play defense when literally nobody can run past you on the offense. And I think Ohio State's got some guys that can run past you on the offense. Michigan obviously likes to live in the box on offense and just throw bodies at people and figure out ways to bust through and create long runs. So it's kind of going to be a battle of that versus a team that wants to spread you out a little bit, throw the ball around a little bit, use some of those weapons on the outside a little bit. Ohio State's won 8 of the last 10, but they've dropped the last 2 to Michigan. So can Michigan make it 3 in a row, or does Ohio State kind of pick up where they've been left off and just kind of own Michigan? Obviously, both of these defenses are really good. I still think a lot of that's a product of the Big Ten offenses across the board just not being that good. But I think Ohio State definitely has an advantage on offense. I think Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr. are going to have themselves a day against this Michigan defense. I think Ohio State gets the upset on the road at Michigan, 24-20. Aggie at number 15, LSU. This is a Saturday, 11 a.m. kick as well on ESPN. LSU's an 11-point favorite in this game. The only reason I picked this game, well, there's a couple reasons. One, a pretty bad A&M team beat LSU last year at Kyle Field and didn't make it look hard at all. I think if you go back and look at last season, that has to be up there in like the top 10, like, oh shit, I didn't think that was going to happen moments of college football in 2022. I think the other thing you look at, and we'll talk about that more in depth in a second, is this A&M defense against this LSU offense. I think that's an interesting matchup. This time, Texas A&M's got to go on the road. They got to go to Death Valley. The only saving grace is it's an early kick, so the guys in Death Valley will only be, I don't know, half as drunk, a quarter of as drunk as they would have been if this game was a 7 p.m. kick. I think A&M's probably the toughest team up front defensively that LSU has seen all season. I know Alabama's pretty good. But man, this Texas A&M defensive front's kind of on another level. They are second in the nation in sacks with 40 sacks. They lead the nation in tackles for loss with 94. LSU kind of mid as far as giving up sacks. They've given up 20 sacks this season. Kind of puts them in the middle of the pack in college football. But their offensive line's given up the second least tackles for loss in the country. I think a lot of that has to just do with Jaden Daniels and his ability to I think both of those things have a lot to do with Jaden Daniels and his ability to extend plays with his feet, get himself out of trouble, and then find either run, which he's a very good runner, or find somebody down the field to get the ball to. I think this Aggie defense is going to contain the LSU offense, but I think the question there is, like, what does that actually mean? Does that just mean like you don't get blown out? Does that mean they don't score like 40 points? I really don't have a good definition. I just feel like the sledding is going to be a little tougher for Jaden Daniels and that really talented, really powerful LSU offense this week than it's been all season. I think you flip it around, can this Aggie offense score on a pretty bad LSU defense? I feel like Jaden Daniels is going to do enough with his legs in this game to get the W, but I think Aggie covers on the road. I think LSU wins this one 27-20. So there's our Trace Otra games for week 13. Let's talk about these 4 keys and a prediction for the Texas game against Texas Tech. Number 1, you got to stop Taj Brooks. That guy's one of the best running backs in the country. He's the type of running back that you don't want to play. He'll just wear you down as the game goes on. This dude is he's pretty big, man. I talked about it on the show yesterday as we were talking about the 4 big questions of the game. And I said I should have went and looked up his height and weight, but I didn't. I mean, looking at him, he looks like he's 5'9", 5'10", probably about 220 pounds, 225. Just a really big man, and he is thick in the legs, man. So tough to tackle that like one time. Really tough to tackle that 25, 30 times over the course of a game. One of my 4 big questions of the game was, would Tech kind of game plan themselves away from their biggest strength offensively, which is that running game, to attack Texas's biggest defensive weakness? Man, it was kind of just a provocative question. It was just something that kind of popped in my mind. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to want to establish Taj Brooks. They've probably been practicing all week, using it as a motivational factor that Texas has such a good defensive front against the run. I definitely think Texas is going to need to stop Brooks early and kind of force them to be one-dimensional. If they can get that guy rolling, it's going to be not necessarily a losing afternoon for Texas and their defense, but it's definitely going to be a long afternoon, long evening, long night, whatever the hell you want to call it. Game kicks at 6:30. That's evening, right? Anyway, doesn't matter. Going to be a long night if they can't get that guy slowed down early. Number 2, they need to hit the long ball. Mitchell and Worthy are going to get open. They've been doing it all season long. Quinn Ewers has kind of had some accuracy issues downfield. He's really had that since he's been at Texas. He just does not throw a very nice deep ball very consistently. Sometimes he'll drop one in there. Reminds me a lot of Sam Ehlinger. He would do the same thing. Even when Quinn Ewers completes them, a lot of the times they're just not the best balls. Like, there's been a lot of touchdowns this year that weren't touchdowns because wide receivers had to slow down, in some cases stop. And I think, dealing with that accuracy issue just gets tougher when you talk about this AC separation injury. He's had some really bad misses. He had some just atrocious misses against Iowa State. I think he just needs to be accurate enough to give his wide receivers a chance to go make plays. But they're going to have to hit some deep balls over the top. And then the offensive line, you talk about hitting the deep ball, you got to have time. They're going to have to do their part to keep him clean. Texas is, at times, giving up some sacks. Texas Tech isn't an amazing team sacking the quarterback. In fact, they're not very good at all. They're going to get after that Texas offensive line. Key number 3, got to protect the red zone. Texas is the 5th best defense in the country in the red zone. Texas Tech is the 67th best red zone offense in the country, so about middle of the pack, not very good. We talk all the time about having an advantage over a specific team and not doing things to lose that advantage, or not doing things to make that advantage go away. This is a huge area for Texas. PK's bend but don't break philosophy, it relies on not giving up these big plays over the top for touchdowns. And then once offenses get down in the red zone, the idea is to just tighten up everything, keep them out of the end zone, and force them to attempt field goals. I think what we're going to see with Tech, though, is they're already really aggressive. I don't remember what it was, like 8 times they went for it on 4th down last year up in Lubbock. They converted on 6 of them. Tech has nothing to lose in this game. Tech has got their 6th win. They're bowl eligible. Probably not going to improve their bowl that much by beating Texas. I mean, maybe. I really don't know where they would sit right now from a bowl perspective, but I think, you're a 6-win team. Is 7 wins going to really give you that much better of a bowl? Probably not. So I don't think the coaching staff is thinking anything about that. I think all they want to do is come and beat Texas. And I think the way you can come and beat Texas, get the ball in the red zone and put the ball in the end zone when you get into the red zone. Texas Tech is going to play to win this game. They ain't holding nothing back. So Texas is going to have to be really good in the red zone defensively. Key number 4, win the situations. Well, what the hell are the situations? We've talked about it a bunch since the Oklahoma game. These key situations, offensively, defensively, throughout the course of a game. If y'all remember, in that Oklahoma game, they were 0 for 4 in those key situations. The first drive, Oklahoma had the ball. They scored a touchdown. I know it was a short field. Don't give a fuck. Hold them to a field goal. When the offense lets you down, pick them up, hold them to a field goal. They did not do that. Oklahoma punches it in for a touchdown. The last drive of the second half, Oklahoma gets a score. The first drive of the second half, and I think I just said the last drive of the second half. I meant the last drive of the first half. Oklahoma gets a field goal, I believe, in that game. First drive of the second half, they come out, go down the field, score a touchdown. So a tie ball game goes to a 10-point lead for Oklahoma just because you didn't situationally win anything. And then we all know that last drive of the game, Oklahoma goes right down the field, scores the game-winning touchdown. So Texas has to be really good right before the half, right after the half, because you know Texas is not winning a coin flip. I don't think Texas has won a coin flip at all this season. And I'm sure they have. I just can't remember what game it would be. I saw somebody post it's been like 7 games in a row that they've lost the coin flip. So let's assume they're going to lose the coin flip. They're going to end up on defense to start the second half. Got to go out there and get the ball back for the offense. Cannot give up points in those key situations. We saw them do it against Houston. They gave up points right at the end of the first half. They gave up points right at the beginning of the second half. Luckily, they were able to stop Houston on that last drive to get the ball back, seal the deal. We saw in the Kansas State game, they gave up points right there at the end of the first half. They gave up points right at the beginning of the second half. Can't do it. Third downs. Other key situation during the game. This comes up all the time during the Texas Tech. Kind of a middle of the pack on third down conversions offensively. Texas is the second best defense in the country on third down. That's an advantage that you want to make sure you keep up. You want to make sure you get off the field on third down. You want to make sure you win first down. So when it is third down, it's too far for them to go for it every single time. That's what killed them last year. Texas Tech would just get the ball to where it'd be 2 or 3 yards to go on fourth down. And they go for it. Texas is pretty damn terrible on third down offensively, but Texas Tech is pretty damn terrible on third down defensively. So I feel like that one's a push. Either way, you want to win third downs. You don't want to be in them, but if you get in them, you want to win them more often than not. If it's time to run the football, that offensive line needs to be able to consistently get push so Texas can consistently run the football. You know, this game could go one of two ways for me, I think. This game could be one of those games where we get a really big lead early and then try to run the ball in the second half. Kind of get a little conservative. Or this game might play out like the Iowa State game where you don't really have a chance to get conservative until very late in the game. So got to be able to run the football when Steve Sarkisian says, all right, guys, let's go run the football. Here's a big one. When you get the opportunity to take the ball away defensively, take the ball away. Finish the play. Jaron Thompson's little missed interception against Oklahoma in the end zone cost us 3 points. Who knows what happens from that point on? You know what I'm saying? So when you get the opportunity, take the ball away, take it away. I think a lot of Tech fans or a lot of Texas fans think this is kind of going to be a blowout for Texas. You see it all over the message boards, all over Twitter. And I don't get that sense at all. I feel like this game is always Tech Super Bowl. It doesn't matter what the stakes are. But playing Texas for Tech is always a big deal. Just kind of like it's been everyone's big deal so far this season. You look back, at this season so far for Texas, they've only had 2 blowout wins in Big 12 play. They blew out BYU and they blew out Kansas. BYU not a great team at all. Not even bowl eligible. Kansas, not a whole hell of a lot better. Texas really hasn't blown out a team in the Big 12 that, kind of has a pulse at all. Texas is going to be ready to play, and it's going to take 4 quarters of football by Texas to win this game, I think. I think ultimately this game is going to end up hinging on the running game. Who can run the football? Who can stop the run? We talked about key number 1, stop Taj Brooks. If they get that guy going, it could be real interesting down in Austin, and you could wind up losing the football game. If Texas can get the running game going, it's pretty damn good when that running game is rolling. You look at Texas, they're 1 win away from clinching their first trip to the Big 12 title game since 2018. An opportunity to win their first Big 12 title since 2009. I think the team's going to be focused and ready. We talked about one of our other big questions of the game was on the show yesterday was, with all this hoopla going on, with all this sort of outside influence going on, is Texas going to be able to have a solid week of focused preparation on a short week? I mean, it's senior night. That's something else going on that doesn't normally go on. You got all the talk from Joey McGuire all off season, all the talk from the Big 12 commissioner and his deputy all off season. You got now the, hey, we win and we're in type of pressure on this game. A lot of opportunity for Texas to kind of lose focus. Feel like they've finished what they needed to finish and come out and maybe not play their best game. And when you come out and you don't play your best game, you let teams hang around. A lot of times that don't work out for you. But I think they will come in. I think they're going to come in focused. I really like how this team has responded this year, especially late down the stretch. They've played in a lot of tight games, and they always figure out a way to make a play or two to win the game. I think the Texas depth is just way too good. The quality depth they have. I think as this game goes on, you're going to see Tech start to wear out, especially if they can get that running game going. I think you'll see it late in this game. Texas will start getting some chunk yards running the football. I have Texas winning this one close and pulling away late, 31-23. We've done this before. Here's the deal. The Horn Takes podcast score predictor says this is a blowout. The predictor says Texas wins this game 35-17. And guys, the first time I rolled the predictor out, it was against BYU, and I think it was this score. It was close to this score. And I thought, there is no way. So I picked a different score. So we got 2 picks for this game. Both have Texas winning. One is much closer than the other. So we'll see who's closest between me and the machine. Let's talk about this Big 12 penalty disparity for just a little bit. We always talk about the officials on the show. I hate officials. I think officiating is so bad across all sports, all levels of sport. It's horrible. I just don't ever remember it being that bad. And maybe part of that is technology. When I was a kid, when I was younger, when I was growing up as a teenager, even early in my adult life, was not that good. Like you didn't have HD. You didn't have all these multiple camera angles probably that you see now. I mean, I remember watching games as a kid and the camera angle never changed. You just saw a wide shot of the field, and the little dude drove his little cart up and down the field with the cameraman in it, and that's what you saw. Now you got freaking cameras every damn place. You got sound every damn place. So maybe that's part of it. Regardless, it's just not good. And guys, I want to also say I understand that these guys are humans. They're not machines, they're not robots. I understand they're going to make mistakes. And I think that's okay. And honestly, I don't care how you call the game, just call it consistently. I think the root of all of my angst and anger and just disappointment with officiating really boils down to just a complete and total lack of consistency. I mean, you'll see plays where, yeah, the guy grabbed the jersey or something, which is a hold. You'll see him throw a flag on that. But then you see a guy's arm completely around somebody's neck as they're trying to rush the passer. They're literally choking them out with their arm, and it won't draw a flag in the same exact game. That just can't happen. There's too much at stake in these games. But check this out. Through 8 games of Big 12 play, and I saw this on Twitter. I think CJ Vogel posted it. Trying to give credit where credit's due. OU and Texas have the most penalties called against them of any Big 12 team. Oklahoma has the most with 53. Texas has 51. So that's roughly 7 penalties a game for Oklahoma and 6 penalties a game for Texas. Texas's average non-conference penalties per game was 4. So 2 less. Turns out Oklahoma's just cheaters. We all knew that. I mean their whole entire thing, their whole deal, their whole mascot, the whole purpose behind the school is because they're a bunch of cheaters, the Sooners, right? They cheated. They went in there and stole land or blocked off land early. And that cheating philosophy, that cheating culture has just been with Oklahoma ever since. They actually average 7 penalties per game and out of conference as well. So again, they're cheaters. We're not. We average 2 less out of conference than we do in conference. And I think here's the bigger thing. Teams Texas has played this season in the Big 12 have combined for 32 penalties against Texas through 8 games. That's only 4 per game. And if you look at some of these games, like, I mean, we bitched about the Iowa State game. Yeah, we got the win. I'm happy we got the win. I just really am concerned that, and folks, you got to understand, Texas fans have been seeing some terrible, it's either like the worst luck ever from officials, or there's clearly some sort of bias against Texas. I don't know which one it is. I hate to be a conspiracy guy. I really, really do. But you can go back to like 2015, 2014, 2015 time, and there is just some unbelievable, unexplainable, just absolute horseshit calls that have happened to Texas, that have happened like in key moments of games and cost them games. I mean, it's bad enough when you're struggling to win games, but then some of the things that have happened to Texas to actually cost them games from an official perspective. So that's where I'm coming from. I've got like this history. I've got like this PTSD from penalties, the PPTSD. And again, it's not the penalties. And it's like if Texas is committing penalties, Throw flags. But don't tell me the other team isn't committing penalties. Don't tell me that they're not pass interfering. Don't tell me that they're not holding. Texas has arguably the two best defensive tackles in the country. I can't remember the last time an offensive lineman got flagged for holding against those guys. They're in the backfield all the time. They're in the backfield on run plays. They're in the backfield on pass plays. You cannot tell me that they don't get held all the time. Yet, I could not tell you the last time an offensive lineman got flagged for holding one of those guys. I saw somebody post it. I don't know if it's true. There's been one holding call against Texas defensive tackles this year. Again, I don't know if that's accurate, so don't quote me on it. But let's say it's even remotely close. That's bullshit. You look at pass interference. I know I mentioned it earlier. Texas has not been on the long end of the stick on pass interference calls this year at all. At all. We saw Xavier Worthy get mugged in that Texas OU game. No call. Then we see tight coverage. The ball go well out of bounds against OU, and that's a pass interference. We saw the officials bail Rocco Becht out when he was trying to throw the ball away Saturday night against Iowa State. Again, just really tight coverage. Nothing egregious, and the ball literally landed 10 feet out of bounds. He was throwing it away. He knew he didn't have anybody remotely close to being open. So he's throwing it away. The officials bail him out. I just want this shit called consistently. I think if you have a huge disparity in the course of a single game, that's probably not an indicator. A lot of Texas fans will point back to that Oklahoma State game last year and say, we absolutely got robbed by the officials. I don't feel like that. I think we had 12 penalties in that game. 8 of them were procedure penalties. So they weren't just like looking to throw flags on Texas in that game. I didn't feel like. But I think a disparity like this over the course of an entire season, there's got to be something. There's got to be something going on with that. Be better, officials. Do your fucking job. Let's talk about Jonathan Brooks for a minute. Doak Walker, semifinalist. Really proud of this dude. He's not going to make the finalist list, and he's certainly not going to win the award, but I think it's really cool that he even made the semifinal list. Guy's got 1,139 yards rushing this season, despite missing one game already, which is 12th in the country. He won't wind up there, but that's okay. At one point, he was leading the nation in rushing. The other crazy thing is this guy wasn't even the starter at the beginning of the season. CJ Baxter had come in and done something. I don't know what, but done something to convince the Texas coaching staff that he should be the starter over Jonathan Brooks. It's not a knock on CJ Baxter at all, but Jonathan Brooks is just different. He's top 25 in yards per carry, 6.09. Not going to probably get any worse there. Got 10 rushing touchdowns on the season. So a really good year for Jonathan Brooks. Really, again, just feel bad for that guy that he got hurt. College football playoffs. Another poll is out. Washington jumps Florida State. Committee says it's not because of the injury to Jordan Travis. Washington just looks better right now. Bullshit. Bullshit. It wasn't because of that injury. There is not a damn thing changed between Florida State and Washington and the way they've played the last 2 or 3 weeks that would lead you to say, oh, we got to move one team over the other. The only thing that's changed is Florida State doesn't have their quarterback right now. And we feel bad for that young man as well. He's I think a 5th-year senior. He's done. This committee, man, I don't know. I think it changes like every year or every this one sucks. They are terrible at their jobs. I know I've said it a bunch of times. I'm gonna keep saying it. I told you guys the other day. I'll probably say it 78 times before now and the end of the season. But this whole Oregon, Alabama, and Texas thing, it's mind blowing. It's mind numbing. And I'm on Alabama's side here too. Like Alabama and Texas should absolutely be ranked ahead of Oregon. I have no idea what the committee was thinking. And you keep hearing people, out on the internet, on Twitter, on TikTok. Yeah, but you guys lost to Oklahoma. Man, if your argument in favor of one loss team over another is based on a loss, you don't have an argument. There is literally no such thing as a good loss. So I don't care that Oregon lost to Washington, who at least on paper is a better team to lose to than Oklahoma. I don't. That's a loss means you failed. So Oregon failed one time, Texas failed one time, Alabama failed one time. You know what there are though? There is such thing as good wins. And Oregon doesn't have a single one to date. They have not beat a top 25 team this season. Who you lost to in a scenario where you're looking at one-loss teams? The fact that anybody's talking about the loss is like the most un-American thing I could possibly think of. Who gives a shit who you lost to? You lost. All right, y'all. That's the show for today. Check us out. We'll be back on Monday. We'll be doing some TikToks all day on Friday, probably some on the way home on Saturday, maybe some Sunday. Who knows? Check us out on TikTok at Horn Takes. We'll do our Trace Otra games recap on Monday, which is Exaggeration Monday. We'll do it week 13. Drunk Sean's going to tell you all about this Texas Tech game. Again, check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe, folks. Won't cost you guys anything. We would appreciate the support. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. You guys have a very good Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends. Be safe out there. Y'all get hooked.